Welcome to the deep dive. Our mission today really is to cut through some of the complexity, and give you the essential knowledge from this pretty intense stack of global headlines we've been looking at. We're focusing on events around November 7th, 2025, and the sources we've shared with you, well, they paint a really stunning picture, just full of contrasts.
Yeah, absolutely. That paradox, I think, is really the core theme running through this stack.
You got these dizzying financial highs on one side.
Like corporate valuation targets that are, frankly, almost hard to believe science fiction territory, really.
Right. And then set against that, these genuinely concerning moments where critical infrastructure just fails.
Exactly. The core systems, the things that keep our world, integrated, air travel, global ecosystems, they're showing real signs of, well, extreme fragility.
Okay, so today we're going to guide you through three critical areas from these sources. First, we'll dig into the unprecedented scope of individual financial ambition. We have to talk about one particular executive's compensation plan.
That's a big one.
Then we'll pivot to the real-world chaos. A critical aviation system failure that forced airports back to, well, manual operations.
A stark contrast.
And finally, we'll examine some simmering geopolitical tensions, stuff playing out in naval defense, historical political disputes.
It all ties together in interesting ways.
Definitely. Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah.
We absolutely have to start with the money, the sheer magnitude of this one compensation package, because the number involved, it's almost impossible to really comprehend.
It is.
We are talking about Elon Musk's latest potential deal with Tesla.
Right. And it's structured as this record-breaking gamble. It's tied directly to the future scale of the company. The sources lay it out pretty clearly for Musk to fully vest, to get the full 12% of stock.
Which would mean what, $1 trillion?
Potentially, yes, roughly $1 trillion in personal payout. But, and this is the key part, Tesla has to achieve a valuation of $8.5 trillion.
$8.5 trillion.
Yeah, which is just a gargantuan leap from where the company sits today, around, what, $1.5 trillion?
$1 trillion in personal pay. I mean, just to put that in perspective.
Yeah.
That single payout would basically rival the entire GDP of quite a few G20 nations, mid-sized ones anyway.
It's astronomical.
But why? Why structure it like this? Is it purely about hitting that number, or is there some kind of governance strategy behind it?
Oh, it's absolutely a strategy. And it's a highly contentious one, among corporate governance folks. The structure is designed, really, to completely align the CEO's financial interest with achieving extreme long-term shareholder value. Hyper-alignment.
So it's a bet.
It's a massive bet. It basically says, we are not optimizing for the next quarter's results. We're optimizing for total industry dominance and, well, astronomical future growth. His personal reward is tied entirely, completely, to maximizing the company's market cap.
Which forces that hyperfocus you mentioned.
Right, on things like AI, robotics, the disruptive tech needed to even try and justify that $8.5 trillion figure down the line.
Okay. That level of financial ambition, it's not just limited to single executives, is it? We see reflections of that in entire national strategies, too, especially when we look at India's economic goals and the sources.
That's a perfect transition. India is currently aiming to become a $30 trillion economy.
30 trillion. Another huge number.
Exactly. And that kind of massive ambition, well, it requires fundamental shifts. The World Bank report in our stack points this out, meeting that goal will necessitate accelerated, deeper financial sector reforms. It's not optional.
And we do see flashes of that potential maybe in some of the recent corporate earnings. The Q2 results for some major players looked incredibly strong. Bajaj Auto, for instance, their Q2 profit soared 53% year over year.
It did, and even more dramatically, you look at Nykaa, their Q2 profit shot up a staggering 243% year over year.
243%.
Yeah. I mean, numbers like that, they point to pretty robust consumer demand, strong corporate execution, both vital components if you're trying to build towards that $30 trillion marker.
But it wasn't all smooth sailing in the financial data we saw. How do some of the volatility indicators fit in, like India's forex reserves falling? How does that mesh with the growth story?
Well, it shows the complexity, doesn't it? Managing that kind of rapid development isn't simple. India's forex reserves did dip recently by about $5.6 billion, settling near $689 billion or so by the end of October 2025.
Okay.
That suggests, external trade pressures, maybe currency management challenges, standard stuff in a dynamic economy. However, That volatility seems tempered by some good news on the domestic front. Retail inflation likely fell to a multi-year low in October, down to 0.48%.
0.48%. That's very low.
Extremely low. And that low inflation, it gives the consumer base breathing room. It helps support that corporate growth we were just talking about, like the Nika and Bajaj profit.
Right. Makes sense. Now, something I found fascinating, and it shows how financial institutions are maybe betting on this future growth, is that specialized consumer banking product we saw mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us about the AU Small Finance Bank's M-Circle launch. What is that?
Yeah, this is a really superb example of niche targeted innovation in the financial space, the M Circle. It's a specialized banking proposition aimed specifically at women, and the focus is very clear. Wealth creation and building family legacy.
And it's not just marketing.
Doesn't look like it. They're offering tangible benefits, things like preferential loan rates, discounts on locker rentals, real financial advantages.
So is this genuine innovation, do you think, or is it just really smart targeted marketing to capture a growing, potentially affluent demographic?
You know, in this context, it feels more like structural innovation.
Yeah.
By offering those concrete preferential rates and services, the bank is acknowledging and actually actively supporting the distinct financial pathways women often prioritize.
Like stability, long-term savings.
Exactly. Legacy planning. It signals, perhaps, a shift in how financial products are being designed, moving beyond just generic offerings towards more specialized wealth-building tools.
Okay, that covers the financial frontier then. Soaring ambitions, huge numbers, some volatility, some innovation. Now let's make that hard pivot to the real-world fragility. Because while markets are aiming for $8.5 trillion valuations, critical infrastructure can, well, fall apart pretty quickly.
It certainly can.
We saw that mass travel chaos due to an ATC glitch.
We did, and this was at Delhi's Indira Gandhi International IGI Airport, one of the region's busiest hubs. Over 300 flights were delayed just there.
300.
And the disruption just rippled outwards to major cities like Mumbai, Pune, resulting in average delays of nearly an hour, 58 minutes, the report said.
That affects a huge number of people. Business travel, personal travel.
Hundreds of thousands, easily. Significant disruption.
And the core issue was identified as a technical glitch in the air traffic control's automatic message switching system. Can you break that down? What is that system and why is its failure so catastrophic for airport operations?
Right. So the automatic message switching system, or AMS, you can think of it as the digital backbone for all the non-voice communication in air traffic control. It handles the absolutely critical data exchange, things like weather updates, operational notices, they call them NOTAMs, flight plan updates, also coordination messages between different control towers and regional centers, all that text-based data.
So when the AMS fails,
all that immediate asynchronous digital information exchange just stops instantly, dead halt.
which forces them into manual operations, is that right?
Exactly. Air traffic controllers then have to rely on older methods, slower methods, voice-based radio protocols, maybe even physically transferring information slips in some cases. The speed and, crucially, the safety of modern air traffic control depend entirely on those instantaneous data updates.
So switching to manuals like...
It's essentially slamming the brakes on the entire operation, which is exactly why you saw 300 flights immediately back up. The system just couldn't handle the volume manually.
Okay, but here's where the analysis gets a bit more unsettling, isn't it? Because some of the local news reports we looked at suggested there might be more to this than just, say, faulty software or a hardware failure. They raised the possibility of a security element.
That's a critical point, and it needs some context. The reports mentioned GPS spoofing. Now, that's where attackers broadcast fake satellite signals.
Good trick planes.
Essentially, yes, to deceive aircraft navigation systems about their true location or the correct time. Now, the sources don't definitively state that GPS spoofing caused this specific AMS failure. That link wasn't proven.
Right.
But they do highlight that this kind of vulnerability, GPS spoofing, is known to be common along the India-Pakistan border region. There's a history there.
Okay, so the key takeaway isn't necessarily the AMS was hacked by GPS spoofing. It's more that the general security environment in that region makes any critical system failure immediately raise security questions.
I think that's exactly right. The reliance on highly integrated technology like GPS and automated messaging systems, it creates multiple simultaneous points of potential failure. Technical glitches and security vulnerabilities can look similar initially.
And this kind of systemic strain, this fragility in air travel, it's not isolated to one region, is it?
No, not at all. Our sources also noted that concurrently, air travel in the U.S. was also under significant pressure. Over 700 flights canceled recently. This was linked to an FAA order taking effect, happening amidst ongoing domestic travel disruptions there.
So it paints a broader picture.
It does. It shows just how interdependent and, frankly, how fragile our global high-volume travel infrastructure remains, both technically and operationally.
All right, let's shift our gaze again. From infrastructural fragility, let's move to geopolitical posturing. This dominates the next stack of headlines, particularly around defense and international relations. And we have to address the claims made by former U.S. President Donald Trump regarding nuclear testing.
Yes. In an interview dated November 2nd, Mr. Trump claimed that Pakistan was testing nuclear weapons. He also mentioned Russia and China in the same context.
And that claim didn't go unnoticed.
Not at all. It immediately drew a sharp reaction from India. India issued a formal statement taking note of the comment and publicly stated that such illegal nuclear activities would be, and I'm paraphrasing here, consistent with Pakistan's historical record.
Strong words. And the sources provided some historical context that, well, it elevates the gravity of that comment, doesn't it?
Yeah.
We noted claims from a former CIA officer about the U.S. potentially ignoring Pakistan's nuclear weapons development in the past.
That claim, yes, it really underlines the decades-long tension and, frankly, the mistrusts surrounding nuclear proliferation in that specific region. The former CIA officer's statements, as reported, suggest the U.S. had intelligence warnings about Pakistan's nuclear activities, possibly going back quite some time, but may have chosen to overlook them, likely for other geopolitical reasons or strategic expediency at the time.
So that deep historical baggage, it makes any new claim about testing, even if it's unverified.
Exactly. It becomes a major flashpoint in diplomatic relations almost instantly. It touches a very raw nerve.
And compounding these kinds of tensions, these historical frictions, we're also seeing a very definite shift in naval power, particularly in the Asian theater. China commissioned its third aircraft carrier, the Fujian. And it's the technology packed onto that ship that really matters, right?
Absolutely. The Fujian represents a massive technological leap for China's Navy, the plan. The key element everyone's talking about is its advanced electromagnetic catapults, often known just as EMELs.
EMELs, okay.
This technology is basically a generation ahead of the older steam catapults that are still used on many carriers, including some in the U.S. fleet.
We should probably explain why EMELs gives China such a strategic advantage. I mean, it sounds very technical, but what's the real military implication here?
Right. The implication comes down to speed, payload capacity, and overall sustainability. Electromagnetic catapults accelerate aircraft off the deck more smoothly and, crucially, more precisely than steam.
Okay.
This means the Fujian can launch heavier aircraft. That includes larger drones, potentially. It also means aircraft can launch with a greater fuel load or a heavier munitions payload.
And faster.
And potentially faster, yes. Critically, it allows for a much higher sortie rate. That's the number of aircraft you can launch in a specific period. Plus, it puts less physical stress on the airframes themselves compared to steam launches.
Which improves longevity.
Exactly. It enhances the sustainability and the overall reach of China's naval power projection capabilities. It's a significant upgrade.
So we've got these nuclear claims stirring things up, high-tech naval rivalries heating up. And amidst all this, we also have to address the terrible ongoing cost of global conflicts, which the UN warned about in our sources.
This is perhaps one of the most sobering elements in the entire stack we reviewed. The UN issued a really grave warning. They explicitly stated that conflicts citing Gaza, Ukraine, and Sudan as key examples are rapidly destroying ecosystems worldwide.
Destroying ecosystems? How so?
They detailed the devastation of critical water systems, farmland, forests, things essential for life and recovery.
We often focus, understandably, on the immediate human casualties and the destruction of buildings, of infrastructure.
Right.
But the sources here point out that conflict is also effectively rendering vast tracts of the planet unstable, maybe even unproductive, for generations to come.
That's the critical insight, I think. It's not just about the immediate destruction during the fighting. It's about long-term planetary destabilization. When you destroy water systems, when you destroy fertile farmland, you create subsequent crises down the road, displacement, famine, potential resource wars, long after the initial conflict officially ends.
It's a systemic cost.
A huge systemic cost that far outlives the news headlines.
And we see that conflict, or at least intense political friction, playing out even in domestic political discourse. Specifically, regarding the historical interpretation of the Indian national song, Vande Mataram. What was the issue there?
Right. The source highlighted claims made by the BJP They assert that the Congress Party adopted a truncated or shortened version of the song back in 1937. And the allegation, according to the BJP, is that this was driven by a communal agenda at the time.
And they were specific about the changes.
Yes, they specifically claim that stanzas which hailed the goddess Durga were removed from the version Congress adopted. It really illustrates how historical events and cultural symbols are being actively relitigated, reinterpreted in the current political environment.
Used to score points or reframe narratives about past political alliances and motives.
Precisely. History becomes part of the contemporary political battleground.
And finally, just a quick note on the Bihar election turnout mentioned in the sources. A record 64.66% turnout in Phase 1. And, perhaps predictably, both sides are claiming it proves their point.
That's textbook confirmation bias in political analysis, isn't it?
Seems like it.
High turnout is almost always seen as an indicator of strong sentiment. But which sentiment? The ruling parties interpret it as overwhelming confidence in their governance, driving loyal supporters to the polls.
While the opposition.
The opposition interprets the exact same number as proof of strong anti-incumbency feeling, driving people out to vote for change.
So the high participation rate clearly indicates voter engagement.
Absolutely, high engagement. But until the final votes are counted, the narrative spun around that turnout number depends entirely on which side you're listening to.
Okay. This deep dive has really spanned the full spectrum, hasn't it? From the almost financial fantasy of a potential $1 trillion personal payout, through the immediate grinding chaos of an air traffic system failure, and touching on the global tensions driving high-tech naval arms races and revisiting historical wounds.
I think the overarching takeaway for you listening to this has to be that persistent paradox we started with. The breathtaking speed of our progress in some areas like that $8.5 trillion corporate target or sophisticated new banking tech, it all exists simultaneously on a foundation that is proving to be stunningly fragile.
Whether it's software failure grounding hundreds of flights,
Or the complex generational mistrust fueling geopolitical flashpoints and conflict. Progress and peril, side by side.
we've definitely seen the sheer potential of individual wealth today, but also the stark fragility of global travel systems, and the persistence of those geopolitical flashpoints, often intersecting now with cutting-edge technology, like GPS spoofing concerns or those advanced electromagnetic catapults. So the big question we want to leave you with is this. In our increasingly integrated complex world, which single point of failure, be it technical, financial, or political, do you think currently poses the biggest threat to global stability? Something to consider. Thank you for joining us for the deep dive. We'll see you with the next stack.